Hi everyone, it's Norman Koshnek here for Eyes on Cricket with Norman Koshnek. I'm here on this, what is effectively a Thursday, the 24th of March at about 11 p.m. Australian time, but it's more like 5 o'clock currently in the part of the world where this game of cricket is being played between Pakistan and, of course, Australia. Australia went to bat today with obviously the likes of Khawaja and Warner still there, and they did pretty well. And in particular, Khawaja did fantastically well. Usman Khawaja did an amazing job, yet again scoring yet another century. In fact, it's his fourth century in this calendar year, having scored 2 centuries in the Australian calendar earlier on. He came in for the 4th test, of course, and has batted amazingly since then. And I've got some figures I'll go through in a minute. But so effectively, Australia started on the day's play, and they moved the score along to 3 for 227, in fact. And currently, Pakistan are none for 57 into the 21st over. And it's an interesting situation. I just got a photograph of that. There's a shot of what's on the board there. I find that interesting. It's a board that, yeah, interesting. I could actually play that back. There's a board that's no, we missed it. No, we missed it. We'll come to that a bit later. So effectively, Pakistan are now none for 55, chasing what is now a target of 351 to win. Australia with 350 in front. So let's go through that again. Australia were all out in their first innings for what was at that time an impressive performance of 391. And in turn, Australia had 391, and Pakistan went in looking great at one stage, but they lost some 7 for 20 and all out for 268. So Australia had a 123 run lead going into the second innings. Australia batted on today, made their score 227 for 3 and declared, leaving Pakistan, of course, 352 runs that were adrift. They needed 351 to win. So it is something of it's interesting. They're talking about batting reminders. Watch the ball, play at your strengths, partnerships, communicate with your partner, good RBI and strike rotation, positive body language all the time, play at your best. It makes a lot of sense. So effectively, that left Pakistan 350 runs adrift, then 351 to win, and they're currently none for 57 with Imam ul Haq on 31 not out, and Shafiq looking good too on 23. So none for 57 now. So they've got 294 runs to get, and possibly much less going into tomorrow's game, or the last day that is. And they can around the 280 mark to get, which is very gettable. And the way Pakistan batting on the second innings of the previous this week got 440 on, that's a gettable total. Munchie joining us morning. Another fascinating test in Pakistan before the next Wendy's versus England test, correct? Munchie, good positive declaration by the Aussies. Well, positive it certainly was, but against a team like Pakistan, they're going to take it on. I think it's going to make it very interesting indeed. Munchie, do you want to join the broadcast? Because I'm waiting on Moses and Apana. They're not here, but you can certainly join if you want. Galton there says hi. I can send you the link if you want. Munchie, I wouldn't mind your perspective on this, especially Khawaja's effort. I mean, Khawaja's effort has been absolutely stupendous. It really has. Let's have a look at what we've got. Yeah, so Mosen's coming in a minute. So let's just have a look at that. I will send you the link, Munchie. Give me a second. Copy, just in case you want to come on. Munchie's not making any comments at all at this point. There's every chance that Marcus Lawrence. Okay, there we are. There it is. There. He's about to message me. Okay, so yeah, it's quite incredible, and I'll just go through some of the stats in particular with so good old Munchie's just listening, which is more than fine. Jadeja was also announced as the captain to take over from Joni, which is quite a big move. How are you, Mos?
Good evening. How are you? And hello to your audience.
They were waiting for you.
Oh, sorry, a bit late. I was out. What a test match it's turned out to be. Amazing.
Well, Shafiq and Imam Al-Haqqa foaming it in the mouth here. They're loving this. None 59, chasing 351. I'll tell you what, they're in with a big shot tomorrow. I'll tell you.
A very brave declaration, very game declaration by Cummins. What it has dictated, actually, as we spoke yesterday, the time actually it's going to take for Aussies to score the desired runs. First session, it was a bit slow for my liking. They could have gone a little bit harder, but obviously they didn't want to lose wickets. But half an hour, 40 minutes before tea, I think they should have gone a little bit harder, so they didn't have to bat after tea, and they could have gone 400. But given all that, once Aussies reached 350, I think that's where Cummins gone. That's enough, and he wanted 4 sessions, as we both agreed yesterday, that Australia will need more than 3 sessions to get Pakistan out. They needed 4 sessions, and that's what they've got. Nearly 4 sessions, like they batted half an hour after tea just to get that 350. And I think that's where what my point is, that the Aussies could have gone harder an hour before or 45 minutes before tea to go beyond 350, and then after tea they would have just got the ball in hand. But given all that, it's really game decision by Cummins. He's trusting his bowling, but so far the batting honours has been with both the guys in the middle, with Shafiq and Imam. And the thing is, interesting thing is, as we saw yesterday and day before yesterday, not all the cricket balls have done reverse swing. The previous inning, Australian, when they took the first new ball, that didn't reverse. As soon as they're taking the second new ball, that reversed. And this is looking like the case. It's been, 22nd over now, and ball hasn't done anything. And spin is been
kept a bit low then.
It has been keeping low. It's spinning sharply as well from the rough. But the thing is that it hasn't reversed. And in Pakistan innings, when they were bowling, it didn't reverse at all. So that's hence they only got handful of wickets. So I think it's game on. If these two survive the remaining overs till the end of the day, fresh mind, fresh legs in the morning, I think it's the contest is on.
Oh, absolutely. Look, as long as Pakistan don't lose any wickets today and tomorrow early, it's going to increase the pressure on Australia for sure. And Munchie's asking what happened with Pakistan in the first innings and that collapse. Aussies hoping for the same again. Aussies are hoping for the same again, and they would have to be. I just think I have to be honest with you. It's daring what Pat Cummins has done with the 350. Very daring, because he wants the results. That's what he's aiming for, as a result. Even if that's going to be a loss, it's a result. Because realistically, I'm looking back to the Steve Wars and perhaps even Border and a few of those sort of characters. They would have batted till 450 in front, even with a day's play.
Yeah. Safety first. They would have batted safety first.
There's no way an Australian batsman declares with less than 400 lead in the last innings of it. That's what their general rule is. And I'm not knocking what Pat Cummins does. I commend him, because it could really work in his favour. But considering how Pakistan have batted in the second innings, if they were like the Pakistan that we see sometimes in Australia, I wouldn't have a question about doing it. Now, I have to just bring you to and I love doing this, bring you to the attention of Usman Khawaja's stats. And I made a point of a post on my community page about it. I said, okay, since being recalled to Test cricket, Usman Khawaja has made the following scores. 4th Test in England. The first is England. 137, then 101. 6-11 in Hobart wasn't great, but that's okay. Then 97, 160, 44, and 91 and 104. That's a total of 751 runs this year, this calendar year.
Amazing.
He has made 751 runs already, and it's only March. He could, if he were to play enough tests, he'd probably break 2,000 and break the record.
He would record. He would break Yusuf's record.
Amazing. So he scored four centuries. I can say 250s, but they're 290s actually. With a total of 751. He's averaging 107 for all matches, and just in Pakistan, he's hit 496 runs at an average of 165.
Amazing.
Can you listen to those scores again? Just in this series, 97, 160, 44 not out, so he was going to go on with it. 91 and 104. He's basically headed for centuries in 5 innings in a row and went very, very close. Could easily have scored 5 centuries.
Exactly. The two 90s that he's missed out, he's actually come 190 that 96 that he scored in Rawalpindi. He was really disappointed about it. The thing is, with Uzi coming back and dominating the batting at top order or middle order, wherever he's batted, it's just a reflection of senior head who's gone to the domestic cricket. He bided his time. He was waiting for his opportunity. And people have been talking, the commentators have been talking about his inclusion for a long time. They keep getting Joe Burns, they're getting Harris, they keep getting, even Marsh was in there, but they didn't give Uzi a run for the last 2.5 years. You know, he was deserving, he's proved it, and he's come out with really clear message that he's good enough. He's more than good enough, and he's the only backbone that has proven in this tour by scoring over 450 runs. You know, it's amazing.
And Travis Head has gone.
Yeah, and the thing we both know, we spoke about it a number of times, that Trevor Heads comes on, he looks $1 million, he scored that 100, 200s, and then he just not consistent enough. And at that level, especially going subcontinent, you need that consistency. You need that opportunity when you have that bat in the hand, time in your favor, you score big. You carry on and you score big. Cameron Green in the team, on the other hand, has done this. He's batted a couple of times. He's unfortunate not getting 100, but he's gone big as well. And same with Kerry as well. Scored those couple of 50s where again he was another victim in the 90s. But he's done quite reasonable. I like to keep him in the side and him continuing doing well, even though there's a couple of keepers behind him, which I'd like to keep him in the squad. But I think both Kerry and Green have done enough. But for Travis Head in that batting lineup, unfortunately he's done nothing.
But the overall Australian batting lineup, even though they've scored some fairly big totals, have to hang their head a bit in shame, because no one, and I mean no one, got a century out of the entire team except for Khawaja twice, and went close another 2 times. He's the only person who, quite frankly, if you take his runs out of many of the innings, it's leaving a bit of a gap there. So look, I think I'm going to go back to the time when I heard Pat Cummins talking, and even not George Bailey so much, but more Pat Cummins going, "Oh, it's obvious who we're going to pick. It's obvious Travis Head will go in front of Khawaja." I thought, what? Because statistically that was not correct at all at the time, and has proven to be absolutely not correct now.
Correct.
And it really irks me. And I'm going to be really honest. The carryover of Justin Langer, he got in everybody's head about Khawaja badly. He didn't want to know about him. I'm actually really ticked off with Justin Langer, because he basically banished Khawaja from the team. It was the majority of the problem was his doing, not having him in the squad or in the team.
And if you listen to Ricky Ponting at a number of occasions, he was saying that how he was backing Uzi to come back in the team, and he was the only one who was scoring runs in domestic level, captaining well. Queensland won Shield last year as well under his captaincy. So he's done quite a lot in that last couple of years at domestic level, and Ponting was his biggest advocate to get him involved and get him back in the team. But everyone was saying, okay, well, Uzi's days are numbered.
Well, it was Langer. It was Justin Langer, squarely Justin Langer, and even for Pat Cummins, the newly appointed captain, At the time, it wasn't Langer. And Langer was the coach then, wasn't he? He was the coach, so he was squarely in the, and he probably brainwashed Pat Cummins. Oh, it's clearly head over Langer over Kawaja. Clearly. Oh, what a lot of crap. I would drop Travis Head. He was dropped anyway. He should never return to the team, even though he did score a century. I'll give him that bit of credit, but he's been an absolute mess on this tour. I'm sorry, and he hit a 6 and a 4 at the end there because there was no pressure on him because he knew they were declaring, so he just went for a bit of a bash.
I would rather invest in a youngster now because you've got
Jason Sanger.
Exactly.
Jason Sanger, after scoring 142 for New South Wales as captain, should be in the next tour to Sri Lanka and India. Full stop.
And that's
if I was selector, Jason Sanger would be right in there because of his age, his form, his ability, his captaincy future. He ticks, and he can actually bowl pretty good spin. So I'll tell you what, it's very clear, very, very clear to me that my change to the Australian batting lineup before the next series will have Sanger in and Head out. Simple.
Yeah. And I back you with that because that's the perfect opportunity when you're going to Sri Lanka. The attack is not as potent at the moment. We both know that Sri Lanka is struggling at the moment. They're rebuilding their team as well. So that would be perfect opportunity to slide him in and bat him in the middle order, get him the confidence. Even if he has some bad innings, doesn't matter because he's young. He's worth the investment to take him to India. By the time he goes to India and he plays next Ashes, he'd be right. He'd be absolutely perfectly fitting in, like Green. We carried him in a couple of games in the Ashes where he was coming through. We trusted him, and he started to come through. We both know that he started to come through. He's coming with his bowling. He's coming with his batting with the age. So it's a long-term investment in the youngster. And you've got to do that with number 6 now. Unfortunately, he hasn't responded to the call number of times. Now it's like this third time that he's been in the team after being dropped. He's just unfortunately hasn't responded, taking the responsibility of making that spot of his own, like Uzi did. Look, Uzi batted at 6, scored double in the Sydney Test match, and then when they put him to open to accommodate Travis Head. Easily he could have been stayed at number 6 and they could have gone with a new opener, but because they wanted to bring back Hedge at number 6, they pushed him actually Uzi to fail at number 1 spot. But look at he scored nearly 700 runs. So you can't just you can't knock his credentials out, the way he's batted, the way he's carried.
Well, look, Trevor Holmes was the selector when. I'm pretty sure it was the selector when both he and Wade were dropped. Correct?
True, correct.
So it must have been Justin Langer must have pulled rank and wanted him back in the team. And I was really shocked when Pat Cummins said, when they said, "Oh, who are you going to select between Head and Khawaja?" He says, "Oh, we know exactly. So we know who's clearly ahead." And I'm thinking, "Oh, he must be talking about Khawaja, and he's talking about Head." That's when it really shocked me when Pat Cummins came in as captain. And basically was saying with great emphatic, thoughts that Head was clearly ahead. That's complete garbage. And something stinks about this. It was Langer's gone, right, no, we're not having Khawaja, it's Head, that's it. And he was forced to put Khawaja in, or they overall were, or Bailey was selected by that stage. They had to put him in because of the COVID situation of Travis Head. And they realised their mistake immediately because Khawaja's just absolutely creamed it since then.
Exactly right. And there's no doubt in my mind, from Australians' perspective, this man of the series is Khawaja, because if you take out his runs, as you said previously, Australia would have been losing Test matches rather than drawing Test matches, rather than scoring those 500, 400 runs they put on the board. If you take Uzi's runs out, like Warner has only scored 150. So you compare that.
But he only scored the 50 because there was some pressure off his batting. There was no pressure on his batting because they were well ahead.
Absolutely.
The fact is, if Khawaja didn't play this series, Australia would have lost probably 2-0, maybe even 3.
Yeah, exactly. So I think you're absolutely right in that, saying that I think in terms of batting, Uzi's taken them, carried them over pretty much on his shoulder alone, because no one else has scored any 100 apart from a couple of 90s from Kerry and even a couple of 90s from Uzi itself. No one has actually gone on to make a big 100.
Well, Labuschagne played a lot of full shots. And even Warner was caught early, but they didn't realise that Labuschagne was dropped a couple of times. Steve Smith went very early.
Yeah.
We would have suffered immensely had Khawaja not been there. He's like that at the moment compared to the rest of the team. He really is.
It's like Marnus when he started to come good in England. You remember when he replaced Smith for a concussion, all of a sudden he was flurry of runs. And I think that's what Uzi's done. Uzi's taking the opportunity with both hands. He's saying, look, I've got a few years in me. I'm not going out of this team at anyone else's term apart from me. So I think he's got a good couple of years till the next Ashes in England or maybe at home. He's got those two or 3 years. I think you just got to leave him alone, leave him as a leadership person as well, because he's got a good captaining head on his shoulder. He's been captaining for the last 5 years. He's smart enough to read the game, and you've seen during the series he's gone to his bowlers, gone to Cummins and suggested a few times. You've seen on camera as well that he's taken that leadership role quite well. And he's very kind of a relaxed person. He doesn't get tense on field. So I think you got to leave him in. Build someone like Jason Sangha behind him, Koski, all those guys behind him. But you can't on this last few months.
Strike while the iron's hot. You put Jason Sangha in, having just been made New South Wales captain and got a century. Been captain of Australia, been captain of the Randwick Pigeon, been captain of Sydney Thunder, captain. I'm seriously wanting him to go into the Australian side as soon as possible and be groomed almost immediately as vice captain and with an eye on the captaincy. This is where a bit of astute, and I'm not bragging, but I think I'm very much, I know opportunity when it knocks. And if Jason and I look back at what happened with Shane Warne, the way he was selected, he showed no reason to be in that side, but that was the best selection they ever made. Look what he did. Jason Sangha needs to be given a bit of a bolter. People might call it a bolter, but if you look at his credentials, he should be in there anyway.
Exactly.
The class of the batting that he scored that 142 against for New South Wales as a captain of his team, New South Wales must, and they're influential, we know that state-wise. For New South Wales to give Jason Sangha the captaincy at his age, they know they've got some class there.
Look, you know that from his youth ages, he's captain under 17 New South, captain under 19 New South, captain Australian under 19s for a couple of years. He's being identified as a leader at very, very young age, and I've been involved with New South Wales for quite a bit now. Every time that Sangha's been, like, he had one lean year, we all know, and then from that he got dropped from Shield team, he got dropped from Thunder, he wasn't playing, he went back, he worked on his game, and he's come back really strongly this year. He went in winter. Instead of going to England, he went to Darwin to play our winter season in Darwin. And he came back. He had expanded his game from there. He's gone on to really dominate Thunder batting in the Big Bash, and then Shield. From one days to Shield, he's now captaining, scoring hundreds, and being a very playing a senior person's role. Even Moe
but he mentally can handle playing for the country. That's what I'm talking about. It's not just his performances. He is ready-made to handle playing for Australia for a long time at a high level.
Exactly.
His captaincy, everybody likes him. He's the most polished speaker. He's the most diplomatic, most politically correct, well-mannered, humble, would never do sandpaper gate, would never be influenced by a dickhead like Dave Warner. I'm sorry, Warner was a dickhead. I mean, let's not muck around here. What he did with sandpaper gate was horrific. All right, absolutely horrific.
He's smart kid. It come from athletic family as well, so he knows the pressures of high performance as well. And he's been in limelight. When he was first picked for Aussie A team against England, he was only 19, and he scored 100 in Coffs Harbour against Aussie 19s, and then he scored 100 in Adelaide as well against the England A. So he's been earmarked in his early days,
Well,
and
it's time. It's time to
I
bring
think
him
it is.
in. It's time.
I agree.
Take him, put him in at 5 or 6, even though he should be a first dropper. Put him in at 5 or 6. Get him into the test system, groom him, and let him fly, because he will take Australia to a level that we've not been at for a long time. He'll have utter respect of all Australians and of the world, and he will be a statesman for a long time to come, and he will bring a certain amount of class to the Australian captaincy. I really think that there's
It's like Ponting. When Ponting first broke into the scene, they groomed him at number 5, number 6, and then slowly moved him to number 3. I think that's what I see with Sangha in next couple of years. Bat him at 4, 5, 6, and then progressively move him up the order. So I think it's, we don't have a disagreement on this one, that Sangha has got to be on Sri Lanka tour. Give him the cap there, drop heads, and then. And even groom.
Don't muck around. Do not muck
No.
around. Do not give it. Don't wait another year or something. No, it's
No.
time. His timing. The timing's right.
Exactly.
He has to go.
Exactly right.
And Marcus Harris should not be selected.
No,
I'm afraid.
I think they've all
pleasant thoughts, but I'm afraid he shouldn't be selected. That's my thoughts. You could keep Head around the squad maybe, but I don't want Head in the team. Not because I don't like him. It's just he's showing me all the attributes of a batsman. Scores a couple of centuries because he had to get himself back in front of the lineup. When he feels comfortable, he slides into this mediocrity for an indefinite period. He has batted atrociously. I think he's batted atrociously.
Yeah, no, disappointing. Now the day's coming towards the end. I suppose there's a few overs left. Pakistan are none for 69. Shafiq 23 of 63. And Imam 42 of 92. So that's just telling me that partnership is keep growing. Ball hasn't reversed so far. So if this ball doesn't reverse in next 10 overs, I think the Aussie team will be in a little bit strife. They'll be looking to get or buy a wicket somehow, because for another 15, 20 overs, if the ball hasn't done much, it will get softer and be harder to spin as well, because softer ball is not going to spin sharper. So the batting will become easier. So Aussies will be hoping that in next few overs, balls start to show a bit of sign. You see the ball, they're really working hard on it to try and keep one side shiny, but unfortunately it still hasn't come good, and that's why they've got Mitch Starc to finish a spell here. He's only bowled 5 overs, but they're trying to see if there's any signs of reverse swing, which I haven't seen so far. 69 after 26 overs. It's really good run rate as well for Pakistan. So I think it's crucial how they see tomorrow morning. If ball's not reversing, they'll have to wait a long time before they get the next ball. And that's what my worry was. The Aussies would like to get two cherries. So if one is not swinging or not reversing, they want to get the other one in time to force a result. And 350 is not a big target.
Munchie's comments rather sarcastic, but it's rather, I'm afraid to say, a little bit apt.
Munchie's bit he's referring to South Africa, but you know.
So okay, let's just. I mean, and I'm not trying to brag. I'm not trying to say.
Sorry to interrupt. Your favorite bowler is on.
I think I'm a pretty good judge of a team structure. We've heard Travis said even Brad Haddin's come out and thought he was not as on. Yeah. It's very clear to me. I'm looking towards the best interest for Australia, not about personalities. Travis said might be the nicest bloke in the world. I don't know. I'm not knocking his character. He seems to be well liked. That's not an issue. But in terms of form, his batting shows questions that I don't think can be answered. Yep. He's not stable enough to be captain, whereas someone like Jason Sangha gets in that squad, gets in that team, and he won't look back. He will bring it to another level, and we'll be saying in 5 years' time, wow, we should have got him earlier. Where best captain ever. What a it's going to happen.
Yeah, exactly. And now Manas is bowling the last over of the day.
Did you say Marnus is bowling?
Yes.
Oh no.
I thought Cummins should.
Some of the commentators are saying that he's amusing and they're interested because he's quite amusing. I think he's a right old pain in the butt.
I reckon this over should have been Cummins over, because last over of the day, trying to see if they can drag a wicket here. As I said, 69 for no loss.
So does Labuschagne get to bowl because he whinges all day to Pat Cummins, and Pat Cummins gives in?
I think because the ball hasn't done much, even the new ball didn't swing much, so they're just trying any technical.
Hang on, you got Swepson in the bowl. You got Swepson in the bowl leg spin. He's in the team for that job. Let him be. Don't have somebody else bowl the last over when he should be the one to bowl.
And Swepson has not bowled badly. You know, I've read some of the media talking about Swepson bowled badly. He hasn't. And there's an opportunity, just edge gone past. Steve Smith dropped another catch. So that's now catch number 7 that he's dropped. So he's got to sort his slip catching out. You know, now people were saying yesterday on your show as well that he's the best slip. You know, he's one of the best slipper, but he has dropped 7 catches. You know, you can't have your ex-captain standing at first slip, dropping those crucial catches. And he's gone to the wrong side again. And he did that in first inning. He's gone to the wrong side. The ball's coming inside of
He's actually walking around like he's prancing around like he's the next bowling sensation for Australia. And he's third. I just hope he doesn't get a wicket, please. I can't handle even thinking about the fact that he gets a wicket. But honestly, this embarrasses me. After the second test, when he bowled the second last time, we blew up about that. The fact that he's bowling again, almost to try to justify why they gave it to him in the second test. Pat Cummins, I'm disappointed with him putting Labuschagne.
So that's the end of play. Opportunity gone begging. Pakistan 73 for no loss, chasing 351. Game is on. Norman, tomorrow I wouldn't be going anywhere but sticking in front of the telly watching the first 2 sessions.
The only thing is that it has brought Shafiq out chasing a ball which is well outside off stump, which he probably, with 3 balls to go with it, should let go.
Yeah.
That's probably the only issue here.
That's right.
Marnus is probably going under his skin a bit, and he wanted to hit him out of the ground. And he's done it again. He got a big fat edge through first slip.
And you saw Smith moving to the wrong side again. He didn't read the catch. He moved to the right where he should have gone to the left to take that catch.
Marnus is looking like, oh, I'm the best bowler. I deserve a wicket. No, you don't, mate. You're an absolute joke. And they've played you. They've played the old, shit gets wickets, I'm afraid. Although that was it was a Mark Taylor classic. Mark Taylor would have taken that.
Oh, mate. Mark Taylor, Mark Waugh, they would have swallowed. Even Shane Warne at slips. He was fantastic. He was really good reflections, and his hands were really nice and tidy. I'm sorry, but Steve Smith's dropping 7 catches does not justify anything. I mean,
actually, Shane Warne was pretty lucky, because he had not only Mark Taylor and Mark Waugh, he had David Boone as well, and those 3 took some of the most incredible catches off. And Healy, who's an amazing catch behind the wicket.
Exactly right. So
none for 73.
None for 73. Amazing. 27 overs. That's a key thing. They're scoring at decent pace. So if you look at the bowling figures, Cummins have only bowled 4 overs, and that's why I thought he would have come on with Stark. He's only bowled 5. They know they've got a long spell ahead of them tomorrow. If the ball's not reversing, I'm getting worried. But if the ball starts to reverse, then Aussie camp will be very happy. But currently, the ball hasn't reversed.
I mean, effectively, Australia would have liked to have had 2 or 3 wickets by then in the day's play. That was the whole idea of it.
Yes.
So Munchie's gone to a meeting. We lost a series on the reason that Steve Smith. No, I don't think it's Steve Smith's fault at all. That was not Steve Smith. Yep. First of all, Labuschagne shouldn't have bowled that last over. Admittedly, he's just had a catch dropped off him. It's not because of his spectacular bowling. Let's just be wary of that. The fact that these 2 guys have survived is magnificent. Yes. Azhar Ali's happy because he didn't have to go out there. But
and
he was caught by
Shaheen Afridi was padded up as a night watchman, so I'm glad he didn't come out as a night watchman, because he's not a night watchman at all.
And Mohammed Yusuf, what a incredible player he was.
He
And he
was.
must be a great coach too. He's very calm, level-headed.
Yeah. Yep.
So
So
none for 73. The difference here is, I think, is that Imam Al Haq is still going and he's doing well. Because in the first test, he dominated immensely with the bat. Second test, he waned and he didn't do well on the first things. But the significance of those two being out there into tomorrow is those two could arrest this game easily. They scored a none for 250, remember, on the last day of the first test. Those two are monumentally capable of scoring the 350 tomorrow.
And they both can score quickly as well. As you saw the run rate from this last little session, 27 overs for 73 runs. They're going, nearly at really good rate. They haven't really gone with the mindset, the block mindset. Whenever the opportunity presented, they've hit the ball out of the park. They've used their feet well. They've hit line down the ground for 6 as well. So I think the mindset was really good when they came out. They didn't come out with the mindset of going survival. They came out with the mindset of going to capitalize on every bad ball they would get. They ran between the wicket really well. So that's the one really good thing. They've hit the sweepers hard and they've run really well between the wickets. So I think there's a lot of good things to talk about for this little session that they had. My summary for Aussie batting this morning is they've gone a little too slow in that middle session. They could have gone a little bit harder. By T, they should have been 400 in front. So then they still have 4 sessions to bowl Pakistan out. But then 400 compared to 350 is a big difference when you see 73 for no loss. And you're
They
now
need 278 tomorrow, which is roughly 90 an hour, 90 a session, and they just scored 98 in this session. So
exactly.
there is both teams of Australia batted from home. The reality is that's a very gettable amount.
Very good.
But at the same time, give credit to Pat Cummins, I guess, for his captaincy, because he spurred a result here. He has spurred a result. It could be the Pakistan collapsed in one of the sessions, very possible. And on the other hand, they could win the match. And I think we're going to get a victory here. We're not going to get a draw. And I do applaud Cummins for that.
Yeah,
I do applaud him for
that. He's got to be given that credit. 350. And any other batters could have gone safety first, and they've gone 400, 450, and then bat themselves out of the game to be on a safety and then start bowling. But he knew the time was critical, because on these pitches you need more time. You need at least 2 balls, 2 new balls to get the things happening. Not 1 ball is enough. So he's really summed up first 2 test matches into this one and going, 350 is enough. If they can't defend 350, they wouldn't be able to defend 400. So hats off to him. He's made the game out of it. Hasn't taken safety first approach. I think 350. He believes in his bowling attack. He believes in himself being a leader of the pack. Got first fifer from a fast bowler on this tour. So I think a lot to be applauded here for Pat Cummins.
Well, it's going to come down to Cummins with support of Stark to do what they did in the first innings. It won't come from the spinners. Nathan Lyon may get a wicket or 2, but that's it. It's going to come from Cummins getting a 5 to win this test match. But my prediction is now that with 278, the mental shift overnight will go to Pakistan, because they'll feel less pressure on them than Australia. Are going to start to feel the pressure now. They're going to go, holy smoke, well, they've only got to get 278. That's doable. They're going to start to have doubts about themselves, whereas Pakistan will have not so much. They won't have any doubts. They'll have a positivity about the fact they could win. And if they do lose a few wickets early tomorrow, they can shut up shop a little bit and be more controlled. They can do that. So they're in a pretty good position. My prediction is at this stage, I've gone from probably thinking Australia were going to win to now Pakistan in the box seat, as long as they don't lose any wickets in the first session tomorrow. Watch out.
Then I think the game is, for me, game is even at the moment. And as you said, first session is a cliche. Everyone say first hour is crucial. For me, if they come out with the same intent, they bat through the lunch, even if they scored another 70 or 60 odd in first session, they go slow, but then they don't lose wickets. Second session, they can capitalize. They can score 120 in second session easily, but they got to be with the same positive intent. They can't go shut up shop early in the innings. If the ball's out there, they got to hit it. If the ball's not reversing, it's going to be easier to bat, as Australian second innings proved that when the ball was not reversing, the batting wasn't hard. Uzi batted, he scored 100. Even Smith and Marnus got a few runs, but any batter who came to the middle didn't find it hard because ball wasn't reversing for Pakistan. So if this ball doesn't reverse for Australia, for that they've only got 27 overs bowled out of this one. So you got another 50 odd overs with this ball. So if that ball doesn't reverse,
well, they've got 90 overs now left. They've got 90 overs to go tomorrow. It's not. Is it 90? It's 90, or is it 99? I always hear that it's more than 90 because there's 15 overs in the last hour. Some even count up to 99, I think, on the last day.
Yeah.
Anyway, there's enough overs for Pakistan to win this.
Yep.
And there's enough overs. Well, you look at it in terms of if Australia declared on the end of day 4, they've not left enough. You would think they've not left enough time to get them out.
Yeah.
That's effectively what's happened because Pakistan have 9 for 73, aren't they? So
that's
it's
true.
Intriguing.
Yeah, it is. Yeah, no doubt.
But I mean, let's not forget this day. What we're talking about, Jason Sangha, not only playing for Australia but being a future captain. I'd actually argue if anyone's coming through the ranks now who's poised to become the next Australian captain, you'd have to think Jason Sangha's the one. He's won at state level now. He's coached at the national level as well. Sorry, captain at the national level. He's got all the credentials of a history of being captain for his club, for his state side, for his one-day side or his T20 side, and in Australia. What more do you need credential-wise? He's got better credentials than any other of the current crop of players. Maybe Curtis Patterson's up there. Travis Head has been a captain of some note. I do agree with that, but I don't think he's good enough batting-wise. So really, I think it's going to be interesting to see what happens. And also, let's just assume that Jason Sangha gets to go on one of the squads, the Sri Lankan or the Indian tours this year, right? And burst his way into the team. What happens then? Because of his captaincy credentials, does Pat Cummins very quickly step aside, or do the selectors and management and coaching staff stubbornly leave him in there? Because you don't often see a captain let go a job for someone who's better at captain.
Yeah,
that doesn't happen.
I think they'll groom him. They'll keep grooming him in the national side with the senior members around, like Uzi. Smith is still around, who's captain for a long time. So you got to leave him in there for a little bit. You got to ease him into the captaincy, like they did for Ponting, because Ponting, one of the most successful captain in Australian history. But when he came into the team, he was one of those same pathways, all the junior ranks. He captained the Aussie under-19, captained the Aussie A. So he was earmarked really early as a future leader, and I think Sangha's been earmarked as a future leader as well. But my intention would be, and for all good intention and purposes, you've got to get him in the side first. Get him in there. Get him a long run at number 6. Get him to feel comfortable. When you start seeing he has that sense of belonging, which he has now in the first class circuit, in A circuit and all those stuff, he has that belonging. He knows that he belongs there. He's good enough. So once he's there, comfortable and scoring runs, that's when you start to go, okay, well, he's going to be the next vice captain, and so on and so on.
Unless of course you're Graham Smith.
Unless you're Graham Smith. Yeah, exactly right. Yeah, that was a great move.
I totally agree with you. You've said a very sensible answer to what would be the question regarding Jason. Get him in the team, groom him, make him vice captain over time, and then captain. I get that logical step that you want to take, but you know what? I look at it. I look at the Graham Smith example, or some captains which are born captains, and because we've got Pat Cummins there, and I'm not trying to knock Pat Cummins, but if he wants longevity in his own Test career, and he's going to bowl and be an opening bowler, he may have a point where he's going to need to just give up something other than his bowling, which would be captaincy. Okay, now that's my only concern. For him to continue to be able to concentrate on being a captain and bowler is going to be very difficult.
Mm.
and
Yeah.
I think.
And
And
I've said that before. There's history of Australian captains, and going back 50 years, there hasn't been any successful fast bowler who's been a captain, because it's really hard for a fast bowler to be a captain because you've got to bowl long spells, you've got to get into those spells and bowl for a long time in Test match. It is onerous, and that's why that's why they've made Steve Smith vice captain, and you see he's patrolling a lot of the field placings and whatnot when Cummins is on in a spell. So I think it's kind of a shared load, and that's why I think fast bowler being a captain for a long run, I think it's bit onerous, and it is a bit tiring as well for a captain. Now Cummins is young into this role. He's enjoying it so far. He's making right decisions. I think most of it. So I think he's currently at this point in time. He had an easy series against the England touring squad in Ashes. He didn't have to do that much of decision making, which he's making now. And on Sri Lanka and India tour, he will have to make long spells and make decisions. I think that's where the challenge will come. But given that, so far I think he's done a good job. But long run, I don't know. I'm not sure.
But I mean, look, Pat Cummins, I'm not saying he's not done it. He's done a pretty reasonable job at the captaincy, right? You can't knock him. He led by example from 5 wickets. It's been very much leadership qualities. Yep. But he's going to get injured at some stage. He's going to need a rest from his bowling. Now, he can't be in the side and just be a batter. That wouldn't be responsible. No, so that's what I'm getting at. That I think that's where this problems are going to start at some stage. Now, you can't keep giving Steve Smith the captaincy in his place. I don't think that's right. I think that you don't go backwards when you're going forwards with captaincy. So
I think at this point in time, as you said, if the injury or forced movement out of the team, I think at this point in time, if you want to make someone a captain when Cummins gets injured or he's forced to rest out of the Test match, Uzi will be my first choice.
Okay. All right.
Yeah.
So who will win? They're asking any predictions for the last day. What's your prediction?
I said that before. I think the game is poised 50-50. I think who wins the first hour tomorrow will win the Test match. I think the declaration is lured enough for Pakistani batters to go for the runs, which they have in this little session. I think they'll continue to do that until or unless they find a point where they're losing wicket in clusters, and that's what Australia would be hoping, that they start to get a bit of a wrap like they did with the first innings. So if that happens earlier on, Pakistan will be shutting shop and not trying to go for runs. But I think they should continue to go for runs and force a result. I think at this point in time, which camp I should be, I'll be in Pakistan's camp, because their tails are up. They scored 70-odd runs, haven't lost a wicket, all 10 intact. Coming in tomorrow, 278 runs in the last day. I would be in Pakistan's camp at this point, but then that could change really quickly, like it did in first innings.
Yeah, it's an intriguing one. It's going to be interesting to see what actually takes place. Australia so far have done pretty well under the reign of Cummins. They won the Ashes, and they're not losing this at this point. And if Australia, if Cummins gets a 5 for tomorrow, or Stark or whoever, it'll have to be that. The only two bowlers that's going to win the match tomorrow are Cummins and Stark. I don't think Lyon and Swepson are capable enough of winning this match. No, because they're bowling. I mean, see, this really irks me. Swepson is saying, one of the commentators said he doesn't possess a true wrong un, but he's young, he'll learn. Hang on a minute, he's playing for Australia. Why do you have to learn how to bowl a wrong un when you're playing for Australia? If you're a leg spinner and you've been bowling day in, day out for 5 years, grooming yourself to play, haven't you been bowling a wrong un in the nets? Haven't you perfected it to the point where you can use it? Even Shane Warne didn't have the whole bag of tricks, but he sure as hell learned it pretty quickly and played it in the game. Now, I mean, not everybody's Shane Warne, but I'm perplexed. If you're a leg spinner of quality, you would have a wrong in your repertoire years ago.
The only criticism of Swepson I have is he's still bowling too fast in the air. You look at his paces through first innings, and even when he bowled this innings, he bowled 90 plus. And you remember when we were talking to David as well a couple of days ago, we made that point. When he's bowling at early 90s to mid 90s, he's not giving the ball enough air in subcontinent to spin. When he's bowled at mid 80s, he's got more revs on the ball. He's spun the ball. He spun past the batters as well. So I think that's the adjustment that I would do. And he's got an excellent ally in Fawad Ahmed in the camp, who's a fantastic leg spinner. He bowls beautiful wrong runs, and his pace in the air is traditional with the leg spin as well. So I think Fawad will be having a few chats with him as well, in going in fifth day to adjust his pace where he's got a bowl. I think he's still trying to bowl that fast where he's landed a few full tosses and few fullies as well, because he's trying to bowl too fast. I think he's trying to bowl that 90 plus delivery, whereas Lyon's bowling in mid 80s and he's getting the bite out of the spin. He's spinning the ball sharply, whereas that's what is missing with Schwepson. I think Fuzzy will be having a good chat with Schwepson tonight as well to adjust his paces. He'll look at his footage as well from today and first innings. And that's what a lot of players do with the analysts. They grab the laptop and look at some of the footage where they've done bad or good.
I mean, he's been in the nets around the Australian squad for 4 or 5 years.
True.
In the nets, bowling relentlessly, I'm assuming.
True.
Whoever the spin coach is, who is it? Is it I can't remember the guy's name. There's someone who's a spin coach.
Three.
Or whatever. So why aren't you perfecting that slow wrong, or why are you not doing that?
Yeah, Shri was a left-arm spinner. He played in the IPL, the first IPL as well. So he's been with the Aussie team for quite a bit of time as a spin bowling coach. And he used to be he was a left-arm finger spinner. So I think to get finger spinners, I can get bowling at a higher pace could work. But for the leg spinner, you've got to bowl that touch slower in the air to be able to get that bite and spin. Which that's why they've got Fuzzy in as a leg spinner, as a leg spinner and a spin bowling coach consultant on this tour. So I think he'll be talking to him. The other thing, I get your point about being around the Aussie team and bowling in the nets for a long time. But he hasn't played in the middle. He's missed out a lot of Shield games because he was in the bubble.
Okay. No, I grant that. But the Australian system's not flawed. They're high-performance coaches. We know what they're doing. If they're pulling a guy out of playing regular state matches in the Australian squad, they're grooming him to play for Australia. So they should be giving him extra emphasis on things such as perfecting his slower ball, wrong and flip or whatever. I mean, I guess Warren was quite lucky because he had Terry Jenner there in the wings, who took a personal shine to them both, and then. Actually, Shane Warne worked his absolute butt off. I believe Schwepson's also worked his butt off, hence his fractured upper back. But if you can be smart about the way you work hard as well. And if you got it, Schwepson just looks like somebody who works his butt off but doesn't have a lot of talent. I hate to say that, but he must have talent to play for Australia. He can't be talentless. But he hasn't quite got
nailed yet. Yeah.
But you've seen at a state level. To be honest with you, I haven't seen him bowl that much. I know he's got a good reputation. He takes wickets, but I can't help but say that it's state level. Okay.
Yeah. Next level is different. Always different. I agree with what you had definitely got a valid point. And I'd like to see how he changes from this test to next test when he plays. I'd like to see him have a understanding of how to get wickets, because getting wickets is an art, as you know from bowling's perspective. Bowling well is one thing, but getting wicket is an art. Setting up. Look, who was more masterclass than Shane Warne? There were so many leg spinners around. Even McGilla was around when he was playing, but Shane Warne knew how to get wickets, and that is within itself is an art. So I think that's what Schwepson's got to learn quickly.
Has Schwepson got the Warne 101 on him? That means that he's building towards a dismissal. I haven't seen evidence of that so far. He's just ripping leg spinners in there, left, right, and centre, without doesn't appear to be a plan. I mean, there's a guy called Matt. Oh, I've forgotten his last name. He's in the England mix. I've seen him bowl leg spin. He's clever. Have you seen that guy, Matt?
No.
It's not Churchill. Church.
No.
Matt. He's got something. I can't remember his last name.
Right.
Anyway, he's I've watched videos of him bowl. It's a la Shane Warne a little bit, but he's got plans. He's got tactics, and he's a leg spinner in the waiting to play for England. And I think I tell you what, they know what they're doing with him. Whereas I'm not saying that description at all. I'm not saying
that's grooming. That's a grooming he needs within himself. He's got to build that within himself and go, how to get wickets is what my next development plan is, because I know I can bowl a leg spin. I know how to bowl a wrong un or a flipper or a toppy, but to be able to set that plan and execute to get wickets, I can bet my bottom dollar you give this wicket to Shane Warne, he will be getting fifers. Because he would have a plan in
well, if he was bowling for Australia tomorrow against Pakistan, he would clean them up.
I would put my house on Australia if Shane Warne's bowling tomorrow. So, yeah, so that's the difference. The legends are not born every day. So, we both agree. But I think intriguing days play tomorrow. It's just no questions asked. Classic series conclusion on this last day for team to take the honours, because first two tests have finished on last day. Karachi's test finished on last day as a bit of a thriller, but this is even bigger because winner takes all. There's no coming back. Winner takes the point percentage in the World Test Championship as well, and the pathway to the finals get consolidated if Pakistan wins.
Yeah. Okay. History tells us that Australia win tomorrow. History tells us that that's what's going to happen.
Yep.
History doesn't suggest a draw necessarily, but Pakistan have got the best chance anyone's ever had to win a test match with 300 plus to get on the last day. It shouldn't be too much for Pakistan. It should be. If Cummins and Stark get it depends how long their opening batters and first drop batters go. It really is up to the top four that will win this match for Pakistan. They can't rely on anyone after that. They could easily collapse. But that's the. But what a top four! All century makers, including Rizwan at 6, who's a century maker. That Fawad Alam, who should be kicked out of batting school.
Out.
I mean, honestly, he and Travis Head are almost similar to each other in a bizarre way. Anyway, I have to laugh at. I know that people are saying that he had a batting average of 46 bleeding into this series, and deservedly been scoring hundreds wherever, and he deserves his chance. Well,
he's had enough.
Technique-wise, I mean, I know you shouldn't bag a unique technique, but I don't know what's going on there. Munchie's there, back. The Aussies struggling to reverse swing as they are more hit the deck. That's the sling bowlers, with the exception of Stark. Yeah, that's true. But Pat Cummins seems to be mastering just bowling well.
Doing it really well. He was doing it in first innings. He did it well. In Karachi, he did it well. Remember, all the Kookaburra balls are not the same. Some have got more lacquer, some have got less lacquer. That's why the bowlers that tend to pick a darker ball, they always try and go for the darker ball, which has got more lacquer on it. So it's easy to polish, and what happens with that polish on one side, you keep the life of that leather alive, and that helps swing the ball, or the other side naturally gets rough. So some of the balls start to go early, some of the ball doesn't. So this one hasn't started to go. Even 27 over Stark ball, that last spell, it didn't go. Even the first ball in first innings they took, it didn't reverse. As soon as they took the second new ball, that started to reverse in like 12th over. So it's just, again, obviously the ball obviously won, and then how it comes up. So this ball looks like it hasn't come up well. It's not as shiny as it was the second new ball in first innings. So I have my doubts that this particular ball will start to reverse tomorrow as well. So they'll be just waiting for the next new ball. But whether it's too late or not, yet to be seen. I think it's a challenge for Aussies to start this ball going early as possible.
we keep centering on Swepson and his poor efforts, or the way he shouldn't be in the side, or where Agar should be in. And we're discussing all sorts of other people. But we keep, it's almost like we've got a very quiet quiet respect for Nathan Lyon. We don't want to knock him. But I'm starting to worry about his bowling. He's lacking penetration big time. He should have come out in Pakistan taking a bag of wickets purely because the pitches should have suited him somewhat. Something's not right there. I'm not saying he's not good enough.
I don't want to say that he's not good enough. He's got 400 plus wickets. He's obviously good enough. But the thing is that he has not taken a bag full of wickets for a long time now. He's been struggling, whether people have worked him out, whether his paces are predictable, because this series as well, he hasn't been the force to reckon with. Series against India, he wasn't there. Series against England, even, who are not really the best of the spin bowling batters, that he didn't win a test match with his spin bowling. So I'm starting to get a little bit worried about his going forward, and he's one of those guys. He said in one of the interviews that he's not a number man. He doesn't want to play certain test matches or get certain number of wickets. He said so many times that if he feels that he's not being effective, he'll step aside. So whether it is coming towards that time, whether post India he'll think that, I've played 100 plus test matches, I've got 400 plus wickets, I've done better than any off spinner in Australian history that have played as an off spinner in test match arena. Whether he's still effective or not, so that's the question he's got to answer. His numbers are definitely stacking against him. He has not been wicket taker that we know that he has been bagging fifers or spinning teams out. He's been on a struggle town for the last 2 years. So whether it's coming towards his end,
it's definitely coming to some sort of an end to his career within a few years. I mean, look, but then having said that, though, he's played for well over 100 tests, almost more than any other spinner except for Shane Warne in the Australian. I think he's the second most capped spinner Australia's ever produced, behind Warne. So he's played a huge amount of tests. He's taken over 400 wickets. So he's third ranked behind Warne and what's his name? McGrath. He's third behind those, which is pretty amazing, really. And the fact is, I think he's 13th in the world. So his statistics are fantastic.
Absolutely.
If he retires in a short span of time, he's broken all the records anyway. He's been given there's got to be a time when they're going to tap him on the shoulder and say, hey, you're still bowling pretty well, but we need to move you on and get someone else in there. I think that time's almost come.
I think so. I think India series would be defining. If he doesn't do well in India, I think that would be, that someone's going to come and tap on his shoulder and say, look, mate, you've been a great soldier for us, but I think it's time. I think India is going to be critical. If he doesn't get bagfuls in India, if he does, I think he'll play. He wants to win Ashes away, so that he might get a ticket to the plane to England. But if he doesn't, I think he'll be in trouble. The other thing that I wanted to touch base quickly, Norman, before you close off, is Steve Smith getting 8,000 test runs.
That was fantastic.
Being the quickest by innings to get to that landmark. He's beaten Sangakkara and Sachin and all of them in achieving that 151 innings to get 8,000 runs. It's really a big achievement. And he's the only player who's got 8,000 runs with the average of 60 plus. Every other has been in the mid 50s. The greats like Sachin with 55 average when he passed 8,000. Javed Mirdad averaged 55 when he passed 8,000. Sangakkara was 57. So those guys, who we still consider as one of the best batters, Smith has gone past and put his name above that list, which is a commendable achievement on his part. I like for him to improve on his slip catching, which I have bragged about earlier on, but his batting is still good enough. He's still averaging more than 60. It's really a commendable job.
But see, both Steve Smith and Virat Kohli of late, and I'll talk about the last 12 months, 2 years or thereabouts, have both had a pretty rough trot comparatively.
They have.
And I'm not, and they've both lost their captaincies too over time for different reasons. I just don't know whether Steve Smith, and I know that Pat Cummins keeps saying I'm leaning on those guys in the test. Well, maybe he shouldn't be bloody well leaning on them anymore because they need to be freed up to play their own games. Maybe it's time Pat Cummins starts to make his own decision. I think he's doing that more now. I don't think he's going from guidance anymore.
No.
And he's making mistakes accordingly, which is not a
Which
end
is
of the
right.
world because you'll learn from them.
Exactly right. Exactly right. 100% agree. And I think that's the beauty about and the thing that actually followed from Ashes, where he had an easy run, that he's had tough series now. The 3 series followed by Ashes is Pakistan, Sri Lanka, India, all tough series. And he will learn quickly from these series than he's just playing at home for a couple of years. These 8-9 test matches that he's going to play next is just going to be so critical for his captaincy, for his own personal goals as a bowler, defining him. This test match, getting 5 wickets, reversing big. That is where he will come. The difference between him as an ordinary bowler or him being a great for Aussie, I think this will define him quite a lot.
Yeah, look, I know I sound a bit critical of Australia, but we are the best team in the world still, arguably, at the World Test Championship. Leading on that, we are the best team in the world, right? Okay, we're probably going to have to show our wares when we play India at home. Sorry, India in their home.
India,
and even Sri Lanka. We'll probably get away with Sri Lanka. It won't be easy, but we'll probably get away with Sri Lanka.
I agree. Yeah, I agree.
But a big coup would be for Cummins now. His daring captaincy declaration was pretty good in a way because now both teams have got a chance of winning and both will play accordingly rather than Australia getting too many runs and Pakistan batting well and getting past score. I think we might see. It was evident there's more aggression to Pakistani batting towards the end of today. So yeah, it's kind of an exciting approach, and if he pulls it off, well, then we give him the accolades he deserves for sure.
Absolutely, 100% agree, 100%, and that's why the day becomes even more interesting when you look at it from this perspective. That results on all 3 results are possible. It could have easily gone only 2 results possible: draw or Aussie win, and take Pakistan out of the game, but he didn't. Hats off to his brave decision, and I think that is applauded. Like a lot of people have commented already, and they've applauded his decision. I think that's some people are still saying that they are a few runs short or whatnot. If you can't defend 350, you can't defend 380 or 400. So you got to back your ability to go. I'm going to be in the game with a bit of a carrot lured to Pakistani batters, and let's see what happens. So I think it's a brave decision and a good one.
Now, I was talking to a partner earlier today. She was going to come on tonight, but I think she's not awake. She's probably fallen asleep.
Fall asleep, yeah.
But she made some very good comments. I look back at the discussion we had yesterday, and she made some very good points about the number of generations that aren't seeing Pakistan play in Pakistan. Yeah. It's more than one. It's up to 3. She's right. Very well said, actually. She made some very good points.
Absolutely. And
it's a good mix of discussion, actually. As I said, her father is the Minister of Communications in India. She has a great pedigree. I was invited to a sister's wedding. We didn't go, but every person had security guards. It was quite impressive. Anyway, it was a great effort from her yesterday with you, and it was great today. And now that it's past midnight, you probably want to go to bed.
I think so. I think it's coming up to that time, and I was going to say that we probably call it a day from my side, but I'll call it a night from my side. But I'm looking forward to tomorrow's discussion when we get together, and hopefully with a result. Either way, we will be pleased. Whoever wins, I think it will be pleasing to see one way or the other. You can't deny. It would be really pleasing to see Pakistan hosting Australia after 20 odd years. And that will lead to a lot of the other teams to come to Pakistan, and I think that's opening the floodgates. And I'm really happy, and a lot of cricket loving audience are very happy to see that. It took 24 years in making, and now it's happening. So whatever results happen tomorrow, we'll be happy, I think, and we'll conclude that tomorrow.
It's a healthy bit of fun. I love the way that Warner and Shaheen stood up to each other eye to eye, and they had a good giggle after. You know what? They're getting along like a house on fire, both teams. It's great to see. There's no animosity there.
No. And crowd's been fantastic when you've seen the banners of the charts they brought up with the support to Australia and thanking Australia to Pakistan. I think that's good to see.
I've been really impressed with the whole series in terms of the demeanour of all the players, security, everything. It's been great. I just wish I was there.
Yes,
all right.
yes.
Thanks, Moses.
All right, mate.
Thanks for coming.
Thank you very much. I'll catch up with you tomorrow, and thanks to the audience. And look forward to wrapping up this test match and the series.
Thank you, Moses. Thank you very much.
Mate.
Thank you. It certainly was good having Moses there. It was a great conversation yet again, very insightful discussion. Moses Shakes is an incredibly powerfully strong mind for cricket, knows what he's talking about, and we've had a good chat, haven't we? Partner normally is here too. She's good munch. She's good on the line. We should make special mention today about the fact that MS Dhoni has handed over his captaincy to Ravindra Jadeja. That is a fantastic gesture. He will still be there. Jadeja is going to be a fantastic replacement captain for him. Very good. The way that MS Dhoni's handled CSK over this has been absolutely phenomenal. And I like the way that Rahul's taken on Lucknow, and we've got Agarwal, who's a great character too, taking on Punjab Kings. KKR has Shreyas Iyer. There's some fantastic leaders, obviously with Faf du Plessis with RCB, Kane Williamson with Sunrisers, Samson with Rajasthan Royals, Delhi Capitals under Rishabh Pant. There's some great captaincies that have been appointed throughout the time. With a Gujarat, they got Hardik Pandya. There's been some good selections in terms of captaincies for sure. It's going to be interesting how that all pans out. It's going to be a very interesting IPL, as you can imagine. I'm looking forward to it. We had our interviews, and you saw my interviews. Who's seen my interviews? It was a lot of fun. What about Teague Wildley, Norman? Okay. What about him? You explain why are you asking? You need to tell me so I can relay it to the rest of the group. Himanshu Ruhela, what about him? It's funny how there's a Sheldon Jackson, who's I think it's the Sports Tack group, including good old couple of my mates there that are there. Not Akash Chopra, who was it? Vikram Gupta. They all made a bit of a gaffe. They were putting this Jackson into the mold of a international player, and will he be able to play? Because normally only have two. He's a third one. Well, in fact, as we all know, he's played in the domestic league for India. He's Indian, and therefore won't come into contention for any international problem. Although you can start looking at people like good old David, who's playing for Tim David, who's playing in Australian BBL circles, and it could well play for Australia, but was born in Hong Kong or Singapore, one or two. Okay, so what about Smith just dropped catching Pierre? He certainly has dropped a few catches. I have to agree, it's been a bit sloppy on his part, I must say. So that was a bit of an unfortunate situation, wasn't it? But yeah, Steve Smith's probably getting a bit old. Not his eyesight's probably not as 100% as it used to be. That happens, I'm afraid. But he's been a great slipper for a long time. He's taken some great catches there. He dropped catches as the first slip, and he was too close, too shallow, meaning that the ball's coming in far too fast. He went back to a more conventional first slippers and took a catch. So maybe there's something to be said about that. More disturbing was the Pakistani fielding. I mean, there was a few. Neumann looked pretty ordinary with his catch going over his head. Azhar Ali, he must have had a brain explosion, dropped a sitter. Thankfully, Labuschagne and the likes didn't cause too much damage, but he was dropped quite a few times, but in particular Azhar Ali. So there's some pretty sloppy fielding by the Pakistan players. And let's be honest, Usman Khawaja, who's Australian, but with a Pakistani background, is a bit of a sloppy field as well. But I wouldn't take away from their batting. Their batting has been absolutely amazing. Yeah, Josh Inglis was in the field actually today too with the Test match. So you want Josh Inglis to open alongside Aaron Finch in the first ODI. Could well be the case. Smith is dropped. Yeah, we'll talk about. So yeah, that could well be the case that Josh Inglis will be included as well. They've got a very vibrant side, but obviously Maxwell there as well. They've got quite a Daniel Sams who's there. They've got quite a few young good players. I still believe Australia will win this easily. Well, Ryan Colley could easily be the case. You're right. If they get through some early wickets, the pressure goes right back on Pakistan. At the moment, if these two can stay in through the first session of the day's play, the first 2 hours, put it that way, it'll be very, very impressive. They are capable of doing it. Well, let's be honest, they are capable of doing it. What is the trump card for Pakistan tomorrow? Keeping their top order in. If they have Azhar Ali, Babar Azam, or one of the two openers batting towards the end of the day, they'll have won the Test match because they would have definitely got enough runs and they would have batted well enough to do that. If they get past second drop, except for Rizwan, who we know is good, then they've got some problems because Fawad Alam's not been batting well at all. And the rest beyond Rizwan are a bit of a tail. So I think Pakistan will be more than happy if they only lost 1 or 2 wickets. They can't really afford to lose too many wickets because it will put undue pressure. But their top 3 or 4 are just stupendous. The top 4 scored centuries, some of them more than once. Umpiring has been pathetic, Norman. Well, Sadvik Bakaria, I don't know about pathetic, but it's had its moments, that's for sure. Who was, you think I was trying to show enough urgency in their batting on the 4th day? Not really. It was a bit carefree, yes, but whether it would actually really achieve much, I don't know. I wasn't so totally sold on it, to be honest. If I'm being really honest. So umpiring's always a bit of a cloud, but it wasn't no one too bad. I had a good chat with them actually during the day. They were pretty upbeat, I must say. So yeah, so ABP News Hindi has come out there with the interest for the IPL starting to rev up, of course. It's starting to take its place. Brahms out. We've got a video, as I would expect. We've got a broadcast from a Zoom broadcast from. It's just come out 12:12 from. Of course, from the Cricket Australia media, they've just issued that out. So let's have a look what the story is there. So I have to just go about uploading it, guys. There it is. Usman Khawaja, good on him. Another century today. He scored a truckload of runs. Always good to listen to him speak. He's usually pretty well level-headed, isn't he? He's quite a polished gentleman, to say the least. What are you? Gee, that Khawaja one's really, really short. Huh? That's not right. Okay, so Usman's today at Usman Khawaja must be very happy. He looks a little bit worse for wear, actually. I don't know why. He's probably had enough of a day of. He would be very happy with his performance for sure. He's had a great performance. I'll go through it in a minute. His record's amazing. You should listen to that. Usman Khawaja, what a legend he is, huh? Fo Allen versus Mitchell Starc. Can't wait. That's for a long delay. That's Himanshu Rayali. You're right. It's a bit of a funny one, isn't it? So let me type this up, guys. Media conference. And I'll call him Centurion because he was. Usman Khawaja. He's the only Australian to score a century in the series, which is interesting. Courtesy of Cricket Australia. It's pretty impressive. Let's be honest, it's a very, very impressive performance by Usman Khawaja. As I said, 496 runs in his 3 test matches, 5 innings, with 2 not-outs, batting average of 160, something ridiculous. Quite incredible. He has been the difference. If Australia didn't have him in the squad and they had to rely on someone else to hit the runs, it would have been a very different story. This could well have been a mess. We could have lost easily. But no, Usman Khawaja's been there, so they've had a bit of a reprieve from that, which is very lucky for them. So do you watch all my videos, guys? Like so, Aussie should go for 400 target. They should have, yep. A safe, typical Australian performance would have seen them do that, grind them into the dirt, and know that they could get them out within a day with someone like Shane Warne floating around. That's the difference. That would have been the difference, but they didn't. They can't really think that way anymore because they simply haven't got that type of person in their ranks. So they have a bit of difficulty there doing that. So we're going to put that up there. All right, so that video's up. Tomorrow, who is Australia's strong cut? Australia's strong cut will have to be definitely Cummins and Mitchell Starc, looking at the way that they bowl the first innings. Spinners probably haven't quite got that that certainty. Australia, 70% Australian winning chances. I think that's pretty much right. Sakib, I think they're right. Safi Bakaria, Pakistan have given a lifeline to Starc's career. Thought his career was over. I have to agree. But I don't know it's Pakistan's fault. He has got his act together. He has pulled his finger out, and he's obviously got himself ready. And I'm glad because Starc was, even the likes of Shane Warne were on his back and were giving him no hope of going any further. But he has turned it around somewhat. So, you got to give him some credit there for that. I'm just trying to look at, there's no video there from Pakistan. It's interesting. Pakistan media updates usually come through with their no, it hasn't come yet. Can't be far away there. Have to just wait, won't we? But no, it's been a very, very powerful series in the true sense of the word. It's been very powerful. You've got to give a lot of credit to the way that it's taken on. I think Australia's played very, very well, and quite frankly, should not have been this close in Pakistan. Pakistan should have been all over us. I'm going to have to pull up some of the stats there. It wasn't Khawaja, I reckon. Sorry about that, guys. So 70% chance of Australia winning. Australia winning. Well, if they have a huge collapse, yes, that's a fair point. I mean, you can't deny that would be a fair point that they have that sort of situation occurring. That's not impossible to say that. No, I'm going to agree with that comment. But you never know. You never know. You never know until you never go, as they say. AB News is there. That's what we're looking for. There was one post that I put together which showed the breakdown of Khawaja's performances, which I do think is worth having a look at. Let's have a look here. I'm going to have to edit it to get a hold of that. There's a whole, let's do this post. It has. There you go. That's good. Then, of course, the one that I wrote about, that even though we're giving him accolades for his ability, Khawaja, if you look at it from a team's perspective, and I've repeated this earlier when I was talking to Mosen, Pakistan has top order. 5 of their top 6 batters have scored centuries. In fact, some of them did 2 centuries. Obviously, Imam al-Haq scored 2 centuries in the first test. Shafiq scored a century. He's gone very close again. Azhar Ali has scored a big fat 185. Baba Azam scored 196. The top 4 there, and then the 5th one, of course, was Rizwan with his century in the second test. Only Fawad Alam is anyway the top 6 that haven't scored centuries. But in the Australian situation, only one batter, as in Khawaja, scored 2 centuries, 2 90s, and a 44 not out to have amassed 496 runs at a batting average of 160 odd. He's the only one who scored centuries. The rest of Australians, a couple of 90s, but no one scored centuries, which is pretty damn, you would argue, somewhat disappointing. You'd have to think that that's, Australia would not be happy with to be in that situation. It's not a stat that they should be proud of, considering they, of a truckload of players that should be scoring centuries. But that's an interesting little stat that I thought I'd bring up. It's Khawaja's involvement has been immense. Could well be captain in the future. His calming influence over the side is quite phenomenal. And I've got a lot of time for Khawaja. He's got attributes of a good, a good solid captain. 100% Aussies will win. Okay, Samir, Petra, you could be right. I'm not saying you're wrong. By no means going to be able to say you're wrong in that situation. You would argue that would be a fair call. A fair call to say that Australia will win this, especially if Pakistan lose a few wickets. If Australia doesn't get the wickets tomorrow, it can go out of hand for Australia. We saw the same thing in Sydney and Gabba against India. It's true. Australia can lose the plot somewhat, and they could easily falter when they least deserve to. That's very, very true. Very, very true. Although I just got a feeling that it won't be all Australia's way either, at all. I don't think it will be Australia's way at all. I think there'll be a certain amount of difficulty there for them. We normally get the email from Pakistan cricket about the interview that they would have undertaken. It doesn't seem to have come yet. Interesting. Yeah. All right, so Sumia Patri is saying 100% and what did you say 70% before? Hi Norman, is 100 so important, or chipping together and winning as a team important? Okay, partnerships are important. Century partnership as opposed to century individual scores, right? But indicatively, scoring centuries as a team shows the hallmarks of a completed performance. And if 5 of the 6 Pakistani batters have done it, and they've had some great partnerships, and some have doubled up, in fact, so they should be on top. But then Australia only having 1 tends to tell you a story, but it doesn't quite work out that way. Because I think there's been times when the Pakistan team has actually collapsed. Australia hasn't collapsed too often during the series. They haven't got massive scores, but they've got pretty decent scores. So they certainly can't be knocked back for that, that's for sure. Again, today, Smith dropped catches. Yeah, he did too. I've talked about that with you already. Can Stark reverse the ball tomorrow? I think he can. He'll be pretty important. I think both the Cummins-Stark combination will be the one that we have most interest. I would argue that's going to be a very, very interesting little combination indeed. Okay, we seem to be moving along time-wise. So I just wanted to... We've gone now. Oh, yeah. All right, so we've got a situation now where Australia are on top, but Pakistan, they would argue they're on top, wouldn't they? They would probably think that they're on top. If they lose any wickets, they're on top for sure. But as we know, things can fall apart very quickly. Certainly can, and I grant that. I do grant that. No sign of any PCB media release, which is unusual. Okay. Okay, we'll look at that there. And again, we have to I've got to work out somewhere to stop this going to non-monetized videos. That's one thing I don't know what's happening there. Okay, so it's on. No one expects players like Steve Smith to drop catches. Interesting to see how they're showing Phil Smart. Well, that's true. He did, but there's been Pakistan dropped some pretty. Azrael Leocock comes to mind, and I think the spinner there, Neumann, both dropped catches, which they should not have dropped. They should not have dropped those catches. It's saved. Okay. Okay. There's a lot to be said about Khawaja's calmness under pressure. You got to take your hands to that. It's been pretty impressive. He was often called a bit lazy because of this, but no, it's not true. He's just a very laconic, iconic player who just does some things which you might not necessarily agree with. How are you, Norman? Night Watchman Himanshu Chowdhury, how are you? Where have you been? I don't know, you're probably waiting for the IPL to start again. Are you covering IPL 2? Of course I am. What do you think? Is the Pope Catholic? Of course I am. Bubba jumps to 5th ranking in tests and number 1 in ODIs and T20s. Your comments on this, fantastic. Deserves it, and he'll continue to rise if he keeps going. I think Norman, Jason Sam play in future at 3, Cam at 4. Whether Cam Green's up that high up, I don't know. But Jason Sanger certainly comes into contention very soon. A lot to be said about Jason Sanger's batting for New South Wales. He's not only playing, he's come back into the side, but he's also playing. He's also captaining, for God's sake. It's quite an incredible effort. Can you imagine he's captaining? That's just beyond me. Okay. Tony has handed the CSK captaincy to Jadeja. Normally refusing this. I think it's fantastic. Great theatre, great respect for the role. He'll be still a part of the team, of course, a major part of the team, but good on him in handing it over to Jadeja. I think it's wonderful. Probably groomed him a fair bit too. Brilliant decision. Tomorrow, reverse swing factor will decide the match. You're right. You think Agar would have been a better choice than this test? Probably better than Swepson, yes. VJ Murgod, Norman Deere. I think so many drop catches and the slips may not be due to uncertain bounce of the pitch. It could be the low uncertain bounce of the pitch, yes. And the fact that they had to stand closer to compensate that, which makes the ball a hell of a lot more harder to catch. I think that's part of it as well. Absolutely. Was the pitch bounce of the pitch was certainly relevant. It wasn't the condition of the pitch as such, though. Pakistan has not released an interview. Khawaja is certainly very polished. So Pakistan can't win as they played at 220. As they pay or play? What are you talking about? Norman Deere, I think so many people, we've talked about that already. Okay. Aussie is going to win the match in the series as well. Well, of course, they win the match. They do win the series. You're right. Who will win? I'll say who will win. Who will win the series? Win the series. And what is the name of the series? Win the series. What is the trophy? What is the trophy? What's the name of the trophy, guys? Let's see if you remember the trophy. Again, of course they win the match. You win the match, you win the series. Win the match, you win the series. You win the series. Okay. Just adding some little question points along here. Rizzi Khawaja. There you go. Incredible. So I'll repeat the stats on him. Actually, they're worth listening to. The stats on his bowling. No, he's bowling. Sorry, he's batting. This is Usman Khawaja. So we've talked about it already. So let's just go through it again to reiterate. Okay, so since Usman Khawaja was recalled to the Test cricket scene, namely it was the 4th Test in Sydney, Usman Khawaja has made these scores. He's bat 4th Test versus England, 137 of 260 balls, and 101 of 138 balls. So he scored 238 on that day in the 4th Test in that game. 5th Test, he scores of 6 and 11, not as dramatic. But then 1st Test here in Pakistan, he scored 97 of 159 deliveries. Then the 2nd Test, he batted 160 not out, 160 out of 369 deliveries, and followed up with a 44 not out of 70 in the 2nd innings. So by that stage, he had scored 301 runs for lost 2 wickets, 301 runs. Then the last Test, he scored 91 off 219 balls and 104 not out off 178, which means he scored a further 301, 392, 496 runs against Pakistan in the 3 Tests, some 5 innings with 2 not outs. He averaged 165.33. Pretty brilliant. So in some 9 innings, he scored 4 centuries and 2 50s, in fact, 2 90s, with a total of 751 runs overall and an average of over 107. That's for all of the matches. Quite an incredible effort. You got to take your hat for that effort. That's no wonder he's being rated so highly by his peers, and not by one of his former coaches. But that's another question which we're going to go down. Some of this is pretty ordinary. What have we got here? Okay, we've gone a bit higher this time. 400. So, any more questions, guys? We can just about call it quits now. Next, Australia will next tour Pakistan 2040. Who was it again? As a Pakistan fan, I would love to see my team winning the match and the series. Well, and I agree with that, Ahmed Raza. So would I. Night Watchman Hamad Shashali is a bit sarcastic. He says Australia will next tour Pakistan in 2046. That's cheeky. So you're saying 24 years, and that's not right. It's 24 years. 2021 should be 20. It will be. You are right. It is 2046. Oh my God. Your opening combination for Australia in one day or ODI versus Pakistan. Well, Aaron Finch is definitely one, and probably English. Josh English will be the other. Only Nazim Shah was perplexing the Aussies, but Hussain Ali desperately needed to rest. I think so. Hussain Ali wasn't impressive. Nazim Shah was. Bringing Harris Ralph. That's what I would do. If you want to really win something, then bring that bugger in here. It'll kill him. Absolutely kill him. Okay, so only I've already asked those two. Get it off the screen. Okay, any more questions, guys? .4, 1,400 viewers so far. It's too late, guys. All right, only going to say, if Australia versus Pakistan top it early, Aussie would win the match. If Aussies get the Pakistan, so I'm reading it. If the Aussie team gets the Pakistan top order early, then the Aussies will win the match. I agree. They're going to have to work pretty hard because once the session goes, it's really topping in favour of certainly the Shafiqs and Imam Al Haqs from Pakistan batting well when it counts the most. Certainly would be something to behold. All right, well, last little look here. I'll just see if there's anything interesting going on. No, it's not bad. 1.5, it's an okay performance. Okay, that's not bad. Okay, I've seen the perplexity in the eyes of Stephen Smith while fixing Nazim Shah. He was too good for him. He was. Abdullah Shafiq holds the key for Pakistan. Imam Al Haq, Azhar Ali, Baba Azam, those four, all century scorers in this series, as well as the sixth Rizwan. So there's a lot of potential there for players to still come through and do very well. And that's very impressive indeed. All right, guys, we might cut it off there. I'm pretty much knackered now. And we seem to have we're all a bit knackered, aren't we? We're all a little bit knackered. Oh, I see we reached 1,000. That was 880, 986. We should be able to reach 1,000. That's a few minutes ago. Okay. Abdul Shafiq looks very much like a younger version of Bajara. I'm not sure. What do you think? Very solid defensively, can attack when necessary pretty well. He's got those aspects of the game down pat. I don't know. Abdul Shafiq holds the key for them. He certainly can advance the total. I mean, I think Azhar Ali and Baba Azam do because those can come in and really catch him. As long as they get out around the new ball time, which is the only issue that they've got. It's not really an issue after all, anyway. Is it? What is happening with Australia bowling in 4 innings? They don't like the fourth innings much, do they? Whatever side they play, they tend to do pretty ordinary in the fourth innings. I would agree with that, certainly. All right, guys. I think I've just about had enough for the night. We've got an hour and 42 minutes, a long session. Talk to you all tomorrow for day 5. Don't forget to go Eyes on Cricket with Norman Kochnek for my YouTube channel. And you've got Norm Koch there, at Norm Koch, which is my Instagram and my Twitter. And Norman Kochnek, my name, is in my Facebook, and as well as that in LinkedIn land, which I would call. So what is happening with Australia's bowling and 4 things? They just seem to be a bit they haven't got the finishing touches they probably should have. Put it that way, they normally do finish pretty well. But they haven't got it yet. 880 and 1,097. Okay, what is happening? Last question. Australia want to win. They should utilise the chances and take more catches fielding and playing Vol Rolfing. Yeah, I would say that's true. Don't you think it was bizarre decision by Cummins? Bizarre in as much as daring, confidence his team could actually get away with it. But I think it's going to backfire. Well, at this stage, he might be lauding the fact that when he does win and they get all out in the second session, they'll be very happy. That's the question we're going to ask them. Whether, in fact, we've got... Okay. Don't you think it was... Yeah, I do. Can Aussies win this match? They certainly can if they take a lot of wickets and they get them all out. Simple as that. To get now another 10 wickets, you know what I mean? Which is going to be the issue. So certainly can win the match. So can India. So can cricket if they get a draw. Can Aussie win the match? Yes, they can. Absolutely. All right, guys. Namaste. Good night. Have a good time. We'll talk more tomorrow after post-match. It'll be not just the post-day, but the post-match review. Might have some interviews there. We'll wait and see how we go. It'll be a lot of fun. A lot of fun, guys. All right, so make sure you view, like, and share the post. Subscribe. Hit the notification button over there somewhere. And then also at Norm Koch, which is my Twitter and my Instagram. Connect on there and we can chat there. If you don't like it on WhatsApp, it's fine. And then ultimately, my personal phone is at home with my parents. No, that's very old. Okay. I think our Australia Miss Scotland, Scott Bowl, I had they certainly did. Yep, I agree with that. So if you can Pakistan win the match, they can. If they certainly can. Who will be the highest run score on the 5th day from Pakistan? It'll be either Imam al-Haq, Shafiq, or Baba Zam. One of those three will come through in 4, I think, and do brilliantly. I'm not getting fed by anyone. Pakistan could certainly win this match. Absolutely. Absolutely. Okay. That's good enough for me. That's good enough for me. It's good enough for you. We'll move on from there. So I think Australia miss Scott bowling what they do. What will be the highest score on the 5th day from Pakistan? Well, they go as high as 350 total wise. Let's hope that is the case. Well, guys, very seriously, subscribe, hit the notification button, go to my YouTube, as in the Eyes on Cricket with Norm Koch. Go to my at Norm Koch, which is my handle on Twitter and Instagram, and Norman Koch. The full name is my Facebook and LinkedIn. So good night, guys. We'll see each other tomorrow on Eyes on Cricket with Norman Koch. Thank you again to my guest today, which was Mosen Sheikh.